St. Paul's Cathedral rises from the heart of London not merely as a building of stone and lead, but as a witness to nearly 14 centuries of faith, fire, rebellion, science, empire, and survival. Long before tourists craned their necks beneath its dome, or choirs filled its nave with music, this hill, Ludgate Hill, was already sacred ground. The Romans called it Londinium, and archaeological evidence suggests that temples once stood here, possibly dedicated to Diana. When Christianity reached Britain, the hill became an obvious spiritual anchor, and by the year 604, the first Christian cathedral dedicated to St. Paul the Apostle was founded on this site. That original church would be destroyed and rebuilt again and again, mirroring the turbulence of England itself. The medieval predecessor, known as Old St. Paul's, was once one of the largest churches in Europe. Its spire towered above London's skyline, visible for miles, dominating a city of timber houses and narrow streets. It was not only a place of worship, but a public square of sorts, where merchants conducted business, gossip traveled faster than prayers, and political ideas were exchanged beneath stone arches. This mixing of sacred and secular troubled religious authorities, but it revealed something essential about St. Paul's. It was never isolated from the life of the city. It absorbed London's noise, ambition, and conflict, becoming inseparable from the identity of England's capital. Then came the Reformation, and with it, upheaval. Monuments were destroyed, altars stripped, and religious power reshaped by the crown. Old St. Paul's suffered neglect and damage, but nothing compared to what would come in September 1666, when the Great Fire of London swept through the city. For 4 days, flames devoured homes, churches, and streets, and when the smoke cleared, Old St. Paul's lay in ruins. Its roof collapsed, its stones cracked by heat so intense that molten lead flowed like rivers. London needed rebuilding, but more than that, it needed a symbol of resilience. That symbol would be imagined by one man, Christopher Wren, a scientist, mathematician, and astronomer as much as an architect. Wren approached design not only as art, but as logic. Educated in the new scientific thinking of the age, he was deeply influenced by classical architecture, Renaissance ideals, and the emerging confidence of a nation redefining itself after civil war and plague. Wren did not simply want to rebuild a cathedral, he wanted to create something that declared England's survival and intellectual ambition to the world. Clergy, the crown, and parliament all had opinions, and Wren was forced to submit multiple plans, each altered and compromised. Yet through this struggle, he achieved something extraordinary. The final design fused classical order with Baroque drama, resulting in a structure unlike anything England had seen before. Construction began in 1675 and would take 35 years, much of it under Wren's direct supervision. Remarkably, it was completed within his lifetime, a rarity for cathedrals of such scale. At the heart of St. Paul's stands its dome, one of the largest in the world, and an engineering marvel of its time. Rising 365 feet, symbolically 1 foot for every day of the year, it dominates London's skyline even today. But the dome is not a single shell. Wren devised a triple-layer structure, an inner dome visible from the cathedral floor, a brick cone hidden between, and the outer dome that defines the exterior silhouette. This ingenious solution allowed the dome to be both beautiful and structurally sound, distributing immense weight without collapsing inward. It was a triumph of mathematics, physics, and architectural daring. Inside, the cathedral unfolds in measured grandeur. The nave stretches long and luminous, framed by massive Corinthian columns that draw the eye forward and upward. Light filters through high windows, illuminating stone that feels both solid and ethereal. Unlike the dark, ornate Gothic cathedrals of the medieval period, St. Paul's interior reflects clarity, proportion, and reason. This was architecture shaped by the Enlightenment, expressing harmony between faith and intellect rather than mystery alone. Beneath the dome lies the Whispering Gallery, a circular walkway where sound behaves in uncanny ways. A whisper uttered against the wall can be heard clearly on the opposite side, a quirk of acoustics that has delighted visitors for centuries. Above it are the Stone Gallery and the Golden Gallery, offering panoramic views across London. From these heights, one can trace the city's growth, from medieval streets to glass towers, seeing how St. Paul's has remained a fixed point amid constant change. Below ground lies the crypt, vast and solemn, housing the tombs of some of Britain's most significant figures. Here rests Christopher Wren himself, beneath a simple inscription that reads, "If you seek his monument, look around you." Nearby are the graves of national heroes such as Admiral Lord Nelson and the Duke of Wellington. Reminders that St. Paul's is not only a religious center, but a pantheon of British memory. It is where the nation comes to honor its dead, celebrate its victories, and confront its losses. Throughout its existence, St. Paul's has been a stage for history. Royal jubilees, state funerals, Thanksgiving services after wars, all have echoed beneath its dome. When Queen Victoria celebrated her Diamond Jubilee in 1897, the service took place on the cathedral steps because the Queen was too frail to enter. During World War I, prayers were offered here for a nation in mourning. But it was during World War II that St. Paul's became a global symbol of defiance. As German bombs rained down during the Blitz, much of London burned. Night after night, fires engulfed the city, and it seemed inevitable that St. Paul's would be destroyed. Yet against staggering odds, it survived. Fire watchers risked their lives to extinguish incendiary bombs that landed on its roof. One photograph taken in December 1940 captured the dome rising intact through smoke and flames, instantly becoming an icon. To millions, it symbolized Britain's refusal to surrender, faith standing firm against chaos. After the war, St. Paul's entered a new chapter. London rebuilt once more, and the cathedral found itself surrounded not by low rooftops, but by modern towers of steel and glass. Some feared it would be dwarfed or overshadowed, yet planning laws preserved sightlines to the dome, ensuring it remained visually dominant. This tension between preservation and progress reflects an ongoing debate: how to honor history without freezing a city in time. St. Paul's has also adapted to cultural change. It remains an active Anglican cathedral, hosting daily services, yet it is equally a global tourist destination, welcoming millions each year. Concerts, memorials, and interfaith events take place within its walls, expanding its role beyond traditional worship. In moments of national crisis or celebration, the cathedral continues to provide a shared space for collective emotion, whether grief, gratitude, or hope. Art and symbolism are woven throughout its fabric. The sculptures, mosaics, and memorials tell stories of sacrifice, discovery, and belief. Latin inscriptions remind visitors of mortality and eternity. Even the geometry of the building reflects theological ideas: order representing divine reason, light symbolizing spiritual revelation. Nothing here is accidental. Every proportion, every curve serves both aesthetic and philosophical purpose. Yet St. Paul's is not frozen in reverence. It has faced criticism, controversy, and protest. In 2011, demonstrators associated with the Occupy movement camped outside its doors, forcing church authorities to confront difficult questions about inequality, capitalism, and moral responsibility. The episode revealed that St. Paul's remains, as it always has been, embedded in the social conscience of the city. It is not merely a backdrop for history, but a participant in it. Today, as bells ring across London and footsteps echo through its nave, St. Paul's Cathedral stands as a bridge between centuries. It embodies the persistence of faith in a secular age, the endurance of craftsmanship in a digital world, and the power of architecture to shape identity. It has survived fire, war, and revolution, not because it is indestructible stone, but because generations have chosen to protect, restore, and believe in what it represents. In the end, St. Paul's Cathedral is more than a monument. It is a conversation between past and present, between heaven and earth, between silence and song. To stand beneath its dome is to feel the weight of history and the lift of human aspiration at the same time. And as long as London endures, rising, falling, and rebuilding, St. Paul's will remain, watching, remembering, and quietly reminding the city of who it has been and who it still hopes to be.